Cinque Terre had 1 century ago 24 different kind of local grape, and in the last year remain only 7 type of grapes. So my work is initially, I don't think to make wine, but I want only maintain the biodiversity. I want to try to make the same work of my grandparents. And so we make research for 10 years, and for 10 years I make research all around the land that is cultivated in all the Cinque Terre and behind the mountain, because our grape arrive behind the mountain, for find all the type of grape, and I find 19. And I plant all in my land for having the wood of all these plants. After we wait some year for every kind of grape, we make wine. And then we test and we see which type of grape have more quality inside, other not have many quality inside. So we decide to maintain for historical memory, and the other one we continue to plant.
Fascinating people with stories to share, fabulous wines and the best local foods to accompany them, and beautiful places to discover and visit. All of this and more on Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast. Join me for a new episode every Tuesday. Welcome to Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on Italian Wine Podcast. Today we travel to Liguria, back to Cinque Terre, to continue a story of remarkable fortitude, courage, and determination in what is one of the most beautiful and also most labor-intensive vineyard areas in the world. My guest today is Heydi Bonanini, who will take us to a small wine farm, La Possa, in the high hills beyond Riomaggiore. I was there with Heydi just last month, and the story he has to share is truly inspiring. Welcome, Heydi. Thank you so much for being our guest today. How are you today?
I'm well. Today rain, but it's okay.
Well, we've got rain here in England as well. It's pretty windy, and it feels like very much like the end of autumn. It's moving into the winter even. Heydi, first tell us about Cinque Terre for our listeners who are located all around the world and who may have heard of but never visited Cinque Terre. Can you describe this special land where you live and work?
Yes, Cinque Terre is a particular land. It's one of the first land where arrived in the past the grape plant, because we have a tradition of grape plant that go behind 2,000 years ago. We not have many documents, but we think that when the Roman Empire destroyed the Greek, people from Carthagine arrive in Cinque Terre with grape. And in the first time, the grape is planted to the top of the mountain. But around 1,000 years, when the wine, and usually the sweet wine that we produce in Cinque Terre, that after take the name of the Sciacchetrà, the people decided to change all the mountain and decided to build all the dry stone walls for cultivate all the land. The particular of Cinque Terre is this one. Is a place that is about 15 kilometers from Porto Venere to arrive to Monte Rosso, and all the territory from the sea to the top of the mountain in the past was perfect maintained in terraces, grape, terraces, olive, terraces and chestnuts, and near the river, because we not have water in the land, near the river we have for the vegetable. But the particular is really impressive when we see a photo of the 1960, 1950 about, because you don't see a place that is not cultivated in all the Cinque Terre. And the particular is that for made all this wall, because I work many years for the national park, we have many dates, for build the Cinque Terre, the people have to use more stone that for build the Great Wall in China. So it's a very particular impressive work for the people. That is a group of people that for live here have to change the mountain all around. It's the only method for work and can live in this place. But
Okay.
it's a really impressive opera from these people.
Yes, absolutely, Heidi. And I just want our listeners to imagine these slopes that are so steep, rising vertically almost directly from the Tyrrhenian Sea. And as you say, it's a very small and particular landscape. We're talking about 15 kilometers, so just 10 miles between Riomaggiore, Manarola, Corniglia, Vernazza, and Monte Rosso al Mare, the five villages of the Cinque Terre that are located closer down to the sea, clinging to the rocks and then the slopes rising vertically above. In fact, Heidi, we met in Riomaggiore and then you took us up to Possa. So we really gained a sense of this particular unique landscape. Now, Heidi, Cinque Terre was a land of fishermen as well as farmers who worked these very, very steep, beautifully terraced vineyards or vineyards terraces that olive trees, fruit that literally covered the entire land. You told me that this was a system of agriculture that worked perfectly because there was a beautiful balance between man and nature that was perfect. Can you describe this?
Yes, yes, because during the year, the people from this place have to find a good balance with the nature. When they build the dry stone walls is not only for working the land, for cultivate, but is for maintain the water and put the water where you want. So is an important opera for when you have the bigger rain. But particularly the people from here without nothing, because there are only people that work in the land, so they don't know nothing, but they discover all the regulations that today is the regulation of the biodynamic. So it's normally for us that you don't find only grape, but you find grape near, you find many citron plant, many aromatic plants. All the herb that born in the land is used for made compost in the same land. So it's a particular method that today is difficult to find because it's a very not a rich place because the people work all day and usually sometimes don't have nothing to eat in the past. But is a particular method that the nature and the man work for the same end. So for maintain the territory, for maintain in this method the land is very rich because continue to make the compost every year from the chestnuts where the people cultivate the chestnuts, take the leaf in the winter and put down where we have the grape for make more compost, and the same land from the top is transported down for give something to eat to the grape plant. The problem
Okay.
born in the 1960 about when arrived in Cinque Terre, the street for the car, and Cinque Terre is very near to La Spezia city, that during this period is a very rich city because La Spezia city have the more big military base of Italy, have many farm that produce arm, and the people from here decide to change his life. And usually with the generation of the grandparents, grandfather find a job and grandmother maintain the land. And in this period, we see the first land that is not cultivated all around.
Let me just recap that, Heidi. I remember when we were with you, you're talking about this beautiful balance of nature and the biodiversity, the incredible rich biodiversity of Cinque Terre. And at Possa, I was able to see that the aromatic plants that you had growing amongst the vines and the citrus plants, olives, and the chestnut trees. So you have at Possa, you've created or you've maintained what Cinque Terre used to be, but then everything changed in the 1960s when the road came to Riomaggiore and people abandoned the vineyards because they were so hard to work, I guess, Haiti. It was such a difficult life, and the Arsenale in La Spezia, this great military base, provided employment. So that was when the vineyards began to be abandoned, the walls began to be breaking down, and the forests quickly took over. Is that right?
Yes, we lost during this period about the 95% of the territory, but we risk to lose all the biodiversity of this place because Cinque Terre had 1 century ago 24 different kind of local grape, and in the last year remain only 7 type of grapes. So my work is initially I don't think to make wine, but I want only maintain the biodiversity. I want to try to make the same work of my grandparents. And so we make a research for 10 years, and for 10 years I make a research all around the land that is cultivated in all the Cinque Terre and behind the mountain, because our grape arrive behind the mountain, for find all the type of grape, and I find 19, and I plant all in my land for having the wood of all these plants. After we wait some year for every kind of grape, we make wine, and then we test and we see which type of grape have more quality inside, other not have many quality inside. So we decide to maintain for historical memory, and the other one we continue to plant. I think white rosese, picabon, barbarossa have many quality inside. It is very particularly for stay in front of the sea. And we continue now to, when we have a new land to restore, we continue to plant this type of grape.
Okay, so that's really, really fascinating, Heidi, that you didn't originally plan to make wine, but you did not want to see these grape varieties abandoned and lost forever. Now, you were very young when you began that. You were only 17 years old. Is that right? When you began to research grapes? Why did you have this compulsion to save the grapes?
Yes, I starting that I have 17 years because I work for many time every Sunday with the old people of the village. Every Sunday we go to clear new land, to clear old trail, and I speak with these people, and they describe me a Cinque Terre that is impossible to imagine. And so I decided that I want to maintain this land because really it's not possible that after 2000 years we lost all. And I say, okay, I take a part of land and I starting in Possa, in Possa Itara, because I have 3 terraces of my family, and I starting to take all the property all around. That is another problem with the property because our medium property is 300 square meter. So for having all my farm that is about 3 hectares in Possa Itara, I have to include 74 different property. So it's a job for find the land to restore. But in the initially, I want only maintain the biodiversity and the knowledge of this place. After 2004, I started to make wine, and so starting the second part of my life. But in the first time, my decision is only for maintain the tradition and the biodiversity of Cinque Terre.
Okay, well, this is very, very important. And I just want to emphasize what you've already said, Heidi, that there were how many hectares in the 1950s? I think you told me 1,200 hectares of terraces.
In the 1965 is the first time that arrived the bureaucracy in Cinque Terre, solely by Italy, and we had 1,200 hectares of grape, 400 hectares of olive, and about 2,000 hectares of chestnuts. But the chestnuts is cultivated, is the
Okay.
domestical chestnuts, not today that is all wild, because in this place we not have place for make the grain, and the people live with the flour by the chestnuts, so they dry the chestnuts and then made the flour from these chestnuts, and made
Okay.
pasta with the chestnuts. It's typical here the pasta by the chestnuts because it's the only flour that we can make here. And in 35 years, we lost the 95% because today we had 100 hectares of grape and about, I think, 20 hectares of olive. And the chestnuts is not cultivated, but is all wild.
Okay, so that's a massive reduction from 1,200 of grapes to just 100 now across this 15 kilometers. Eddie, your vineyards, you said you have now 3 hectares from sea level up to 400 meters, was it, in height?
Yes, we divided. The big part of land is in Possa is 3 hectares, and we go from the sea level to about 150 meters.
Mhm.
Then we have other 11 places in the height part of Cinque Terre, from 300 meter to 450, and for having altogether 5 hectares and a half about. And then
Okay.
in the last year, we take a small land in an island in front of Porto Venere, so very near the Cinque Terre, but out Cinque Terre, in the Palmari Island. We have about half hectare, and we made another kind of wine because we had another type of land because it's a particular land in this island. And I use in the island the Vermentino grape that in Cinque Terre I don't use because I don't like.
So, just to also reiterate, these vineyards have been pieced together from micro pezzi, tiny parcels of land. You said the average parcel was 300 meters by 300 meters. So, we're talking about different little pieces from 74 different proprietors, I think you said, that you've managed to piece together this holding. So, it's a very, very difficult to work in all of these different places.
Yes, because we have this particular land because during the century the people divided the land because in the past you know that the people don't spray nothing to the plant. The grape arrive only by clima, and when they have to divide the land, usually in a family, if there is two child and they have land in 10 different places, they divided the land, every place two part of land. For this reason, we arrive to having, in the best part that usually is near the sea where I have the land, the medium property is 300 square meters. So for this reason, it's difficult today because today we have a new generation of people that want make wine because fortunately the people starting to want to drink natural wine, particular wine from particular zone. But we have this problem for the property. Property is really small, and it's possible that you don't find the proprietary. So my land is the same. I have 3 hectares together, but all the valley is 6 hectares. So half part of the valley is not cultivated because I don't find people. It's people that live in Argentina, people that many proprietary inside the same property, so it's impossible to take. For this reason, I have to divide it my land because today is very important concentrate for maintain the cost because really Cinque Terre work is only by hand. We have the only machine that we can use is the small monorail for transport the grape, but the other work is only by hand. So normally you have the cost that is 8 times that another place.
8 times the cost, but also at least 8 times the man hours.
Yes, yes, yes.
Hey, let's also just give an idea of the unique viticulture in Cinque Terre. Tell us about the Pergola Bassa, because I saw at Possa the Pergola Bassa, and you told me that you have to lie on your back sometimes to harvest the grapes.
Yes, in the past, the people made a very pergola bassa, but they made every year with a vegetable cane because the grape have to stay very near the land. So in this method, during the day, take the sun. During the night, the color by the land don't permit to the humidity to arrive to the plant. And it's very strange work because every year you have to make and every winter you stop. When they discover the sulfur, they made this pergola bassa, and is particular because it's more height than the first one, but arrive maximum to 1 meter, 1 meter and 20 centimeter, is good because the pergola cover the land, so maintain fresh the land down, because we don't have water in the land. So it's important for maintain the humidity in the land. And it's good for the wind by the sea. And more you go near the sea, and more the pergola go down. You arrive near the sea, that is about the dry stone wall is more height than the land, is about 15 centimeter more, and arrive to touch the pergola. In this method, when you are in spring, and in spring arrive particularly wind, usually we call libeccio. Libeccio is from the southeast wind that arrive with the strong sea. The grape plant don't have damage. Today we use the line for having more simple work, because it's very difficult to work all in pergola, because you have to stay down. The pergola is impossible work many land in pergola. But with the line you have the problem that if in spring you have a very terrible time, similar 2024, in the 2024 the spring is very terrible, and all the part near the sea is burned by the salt part of the sea. So now we have to decide if we rebuild the pergola, or if we find something for divided. In the past they use a particularly vegetable plant in front of the grape for stop the wind. Now we have to decide which method we have to use for the future.
So this traditional pergola bassa, just a meter high, protecting from the libeccio, this strong southwesterly sea breeze that deposits salt on the grapes, and sea brings a feeling of freshness and sea also to the wines. But this old system that, yes, it is more labor intensive, but as you say, has advantages too, particularly with global warming and with protecting the grapes from the libeccio wind. We're hearing some of the challenges of growing grapes, growing vines in Cinque Terre. Another challenge you told me is becoming increasingly severe, which comes about from the abandonment of the land, which quickly becomes taken over by woodland, by erica, by the big heather bushes that are almost like trees. And it's a perfect habitat for the cinghiale, the wild boars. That's a real problem, isn't it?
Yeah. The wild boars is a really big problem, because made two different damage during the end of the summer time. Eat the grape, if enter in the land, eat the grape and destroy 1 year of work. I have a very big damage this year. You think that only this year the wild boars eat me 4,200 kilo of grape. So for me, it's a very big damage. It's about 25% of my production. And the other part is that destroy all the dry stone walls, because they don't take the steps. He prefer destroy the dry stone walls, and so you have to rebuild all the time. So this one is the particularly the difficult that we have in the last year, because wild boars don't stay here 20 years ago, starting to arrive in the first time in the height part. Today we have is a big problem. It's the same problem in all Italy, but in a territory similar this one is double problem, because not only eat the grape, but destroy the dry stone walls. If destroy the wall, when rain, the wall go down, and put down the other wall down too. So is a particularly problem. Now we work with the national park for find if they want if they can kill this type of animal, but in the last year arrived the pest, and so it's a long process for destroy, for kill this animal. We try to close all, but it's not simple.
Yet another challenge of growing grapes in Cinque Terre. But Heydi, you continue with this work. You continue and you continue to produce wines that are beautiful and unique expressions of the land. And they're wines that I urge our listeners to come to Cinque Terre and discover. I know you export wine as well, although you make small quantities, your wines are available outside of the area. But I just would like to focus on a few of your wines because you have a very pure and natural approach to both to growing grapes but also to making wines. So can we talk about four of your wines? I'm starting with the La Possa Cinque Terre DOP. Tell us about this wine because this wine is really represents Cinque Terre, doesn't it?
Yes, I try from the first time to use the method that is used by the old man, but in the new cellar. So cellar with inox, with new wood, because in the past our cellar is really not good. The Ligurian people usually say we are strong workers, but not good winemaker. And in the past is real because our cellar is not perfect, not clear. I use the same method of the old man, but in a new cellar. I decided from the first time to don't use yeast for maintain the typical parfum, the typical flavor of our territory, because I think that is important for our wine. That is really when you drink our wine, you have to think to our land, not to think to other land. Cinque Terre DOP is made by an 80% of Bosco grape. Bosco grape is a particular grape that you can find only in Cinque Terre. It's a very delicate grape. And the other 20% is all type of grape that I find during the first year of my job. So is White Rossese, Picabon, Barbarossa. And I made all together with the skin for 5 days. And after 5 days, I press. We continue to mix it, and we maintain all together to arrive to the time of the bottle. It's a wine that is very particular because it's very mineral, many salted, not a fruity parfum, but a parfum of a Mediterranean plant, of our rock. I find the rock near the sea, the parfum of the rock near the sea, and is my wine that I made from the first time. So this Cinque Terre and the Sciacchetrà is the two wine that I started from the first time, and is the two wine that today is more known all around Italy.
I loved this wine when I tasted it with you. So 5 days on the skins, a skin contact white wine. Bosco is very important, isn't it? Bosco really is the soul of Cinque Terre wine.
Yeah, it's only in Cinque Terre.
Okay. And I remember this intense, concentrated character of the wine. As you say, not a easy, fruity wine, but a concentration and a marked salinity, this saltiness that again, I think I've found this in all the wines of Possa, but really a taste of Cinque Terre. Now, another wine which I found very interesting was the Ujanku, the 100% Albarola from, I think, a very high vineyard. Is that right? Tell us about this wine and tell us about this grape.
Albarola is the second grape of Cinque Terre. It's a grape that arrived from the Heights zone. Usually in the past is used only for balance the Bosco grape because in the past the wine from Albarola is very light and it's not possible made wine only from Albarola. Today with the new climate you can make wine directly from Albarola because with this new climate Albarola take about 2 alcohol grade more, but the beautiful of the Albarola is that maintain the acidity. Because while for the Bosco we have to take the grape in the end of August for maintain the acidity in the wine, Albarola you can wait, not a problem, because maintain the acidity inside. And we made, because when I started to make wine, I asked to all the family that made wine the method that they use for make wine. Sometimes the more percentage use 4 or 5 days of contact skin, but there was many people that all the time of the fermentation stay in contact skin. And for me, the Albarola is good for this type of vinification. And Albarola stay 25 days about in contact skin without moving. Never time we moving for don't have contact with the oxygen. Stay close in the inox and then we clear. In this method, we arrive to give more particularly sensor from Albarola, is more fresh than the Bosco, is more light, and a very high acidity that maintain a long life.
Yes, it was a wine I also love very much. Is Albarola, do you think, a grape variety that's actually benefiting from global warming, from these warmer temperatures?
Yes. He's the only good part of the global change climate, because in the past you have to use only with the Bosco. Usually in the past the wine minimum have 60% of the Bosco and 40% of Albarola. Today you can use Albarola only for made wine. For this one is a good change. For the other, the
Okay.
change is difficult, because for us the rain usually is concentrated, so destroy more wall, arrive different animal that in the past we not have. So it's particular, but for the Albarola is good.
Another grape native to Cinque Terre that you helped to revive is Rosesse Bianco and the wine Uvechu. Tell us about this wine.
Yes, white Rossese is a grape that is completely lost. I find the last tree plant from an old woman in Manarola. I find about in the first year that I started to work in the land. And I take the wood and I continue to plant every year. It's a particular grape because it's a grape that don't produce nothing. You think that one plant of white Rossese produce maximum less of 1 kilo for plant. So it's really nothing. For this reason, the people decide to don't use and don't cultivate. But it's a very rich. And today we use this white Rossese for made 20% in the Sciacchetrà, and for made a singular wine, because it's made in a big barrel of acacia wood. Acacia, chestnuts, and sherry is the three typical wood that we use in the past in Cinque Terre. So we not use hook, and I decide to use the white with the acacia and stay for 100 days in contact skin. After 100 days, we open the barrel and we put the wine in the bottle. So it's the more particular, the more old style wine that we produce.
I love this wine. I felt it had terrific persistence and incredible energy. The wine I tasted, Haiti, still felt very young. It's a wine that needs time to become more expansive, but I'm sure it would have a very long life as well. Finally, I want to talk about the most famous wine of Cinque Terre, which is, of course, the Sciacchetrà, and the Sciacchetrà that you make, which is a beautiful expression of this.
Yes, because Sciacchetrà is really the symbol of this place in the past. You think that the first documents, the public documents that we find that speak of this place, not speak of the village, speak of the wine, speak of from the Sciacchetrà, because one of the first pope of the church is washed with the Sciacchetrà from the Cinque Terre. For this reason, during the history, Sciacchetrà is very famous, because all the important people want to have the Sciacchetrà. The king, the important people that write, Dante, Petrarca, they write for Sciacchetrà. The particular is that in the end of the 1990, it's impossible to find a real bottle of traditional Sciacchetrà, because all the people made by machine. But Sciacchetrà is a tradition that is very different. And we made it the same, and we starting from the first year to make the same. So we go before the harvest time, we go find from every plant only the best grape from Bosco to the 80% and 20% white Rossese. We select, we put in a local, in a room for dry. The bigger grape we put in up one by one, and the small grape we put in special basket for dry. Stay to dry about 2 months, 2 months and a half, depend by the climate. Some year we arrive, 1 year we arrive to 4 months because rain all the time. When the grape is ready, we transport the grape in the winery, and we stay, depend how many grape we have every year, and we stay many years for take one by hand all the single grape, because we select only the perfect grape. Because during the time that stay to dry, some insect can destroy some part of the grape. So we don't use this part. We use only the perfect grape. And every evening come my son and press by foot, because tradition want that is a light person that press the grape for the Sciacchetrà.
Heydi, let me just make sure our listeners understand that the grapes have dried for 2 months very
Yeah,
carefully, but then even more carefully, berry by berry, you destem, you pick only the best grapes and to go into the Sciacchetrà. And then your son Jacopo comes in to press the grapes by foot. Now, how old was he when he first began this task?
the first time that is pressed by foot, have a 3 year old.
Yes, I
Now
think
have a 13,
that's
but is light, really
he's
light.
still
So
light. He's
yes,
still
yes, it's not me. It's not me
not
that
as
I'm
not
well
as
good.
light as when he was 3, but still light. Yes,
Yes,
I think that's so wonderful.
next time I have the son of my brother that is very light and is young.
Okay. So the juice from these dried grape are released by crushing by foot.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. By food, because it's important that press for take some liquid for starting the fermentation, but it's important don't broke the seed of the grape, for don't
Okay.
give many tannic part. So it's the two
Okay.
part that is important. So take some liquid, but don't broke the seed, and only light person can make this one.
Okay. And then the fermentation goes into different containers depending on the year. Is that right?
Yeah, yeah, because depend. Some year is very fast, some year goes slow, very slow. But Sciacchetrà is a wine that you have to wait year for arrive in the bottle, and so it's okay for us. If it's low, you can wait the finish of the fermentation in March. If it's very fast, in the end of November is finished. But usually after we wait some minimum 1 year for stay in wood, in particular wood of sherry, and then we put in inox for having the same Sciacchetrà together. So it's a wine that we have to wait some time for going the bottle, and we can wait because we want to arrive in the bottle that is a very special wine and is an emotion when you drink.
Yes, it certainly is. Some people describe Sciacchetrà as a dessert wine, but I think that it's much more complex than that. This is not just a sweet passito. It's incredible concentration, complexity, and richness that really is, I think, a vino da meditazione, wine to sip and really allow to develop in the mouth and in the glass. A really beautiful expression of this unique wineland, Cinque Terre. Hedi, the wines that you make are complete harmony with the landscape, but also with the gastronomic traditions of Cinque Terre that combine sea, the fishermen, but also land, the foods that come from the land. Can you tell us just a few words about the foods of Cinque Terre and how they pair well with the wines of Cinque Terre?
I think that all the wine is possible to try with the typical Ligurian food, because less people is fishermen. Usually the people work in the land. And the fish is traditional, the anchovies is traditional, the blue fish. But the Ligurian cookie is not simple fish, it's fish with many flavor. So pineapple, olive, tomato, potato, capers, and many aromatic plants. So with this type of fish, you can drink Cinque Terre wine. And the particularly is that the white wine usually is good with the white beef, similar rabbit that is tradition in Ligurian, or normally beef. And the red wine is better with the fish, I think.
Oh, interesting, interesting. And what is the moment to drink Sciacchetrà?
Sciacchetrà usually we drink. In the past, you have to think that when you born, your father take 30 bottle of your age and is the Sciacchetrà for your life. So your father open two bottles usually, one in the communion, one during the confirm, and then when you arrive to 18-year-old, give your bottle and say open in the special time of your life. Today, not many people produce Sciacchetrà, so it's impossible to maintain this tradition. But I think that the best time to drink is after 10 years. And usually you drink in a moment when you are all the family together and you speak of your grandparents, of particularly technique that they use. You say before is a time of meditation, is wine for meditation, not only wine. For us, is our history, and when you open a bottle, you open an important time of your family.
Well, that's really, really important to know. And I know you've carried on that tradition of the Sciacchetrà for your son Jacopo.
Yes, I made two different Sciacchetrà. One of his here, and one the first year that he pressed by foot. And
Okay.
we open the same. I say the first bottle during the communion, the second bottle we open in the confirm, and then now we wait that the right to 18-year-old, and I give him his bottle, and he decide when he open.
Okay. That's a beautiful tradition. Heydi, your story is inspirational, and I know that our listeners who are located around the world will want to, who visit Cinque Terre, and many, many people visit Cinque Terre. I think it was something like 3.5 million people, so it's very popular. But people will want to find you and visit you. Is that possible? And how can they sample your wines?
So we decided from about 4 years that is important because you say we have many million of people that see the Cinque Terre, but usually in the last year, these people think Cinque Terre 5 village. It's not real because the Cinque Terre is the territory, and so we decide to make this. We go before to see the land, and so we describe the method of work. You can see, you can scent the parfum, you can see the landscape, and then we go in the winery to test our wine. I think that is the only method for know really Cinque Terre.
I think you're right. And having done that myself, it's important. It's important to actually walk in the vineyards, to feel the steepness, to smell the plants, to smell the landscape, to see the sea below, and to understand everything that goes into making a bottle of Cinque Terre wine. Heydi, thank you so much for sharing your story with us this morning. It's been a real pleasure to meet you first in Riomaggiore and then here again today. I really admire what you're doing immensely. I know how hard it is, and we cannot imagine from our lives the work that goes into making these beautiful wines. But I hope that our listeners will discover your wines and possibly have a chance to meet you. So thank you very much for sharing your story with us today.
Thank you too. Thank you too.
Okay, grazie Heydi, and I hope to see you again soon. Buona giornata.
Arrivederci, ciao, buona giornata.
We hope today's episode of Wine, Food and Travel with me, Marc Millon, on the Italian Wine Podcast has transported you to somewhere special. Please remember to like, share, and subscribe wherever you get your pods. Likewise, you can visit us at italianwinepodcast.com. Until next time, chin chin.